So Codex came out a little bit ago. Did you just get replaced by AI? Codex is pretty good at being a generative AI, right? Now it actually has context of my whole repository, right? And that was a big issue with AI, is that you would have to re-describe a lot of context each time you talk to a chat app, right? And or like maybe you would only have one file of context, right? But now with access to the whole repository, the amount of context helps a lot with the responses. I will say that Codex has helped the maniac in my head like start 5 different tasks I've been thinking about for the past week. It's very helpful for making me start something and then making something that is like acceptable as an MVP. It helps me do features I'm thinking about doing, but I don't want to like waste time in doing like each one, right? I want to focus on the priority tasks, but if there's a quick win, I can throw it together and then make some changes to it. With tools like this, you have to really, again, as I always say, in your head, you have to know what's the context of my application, what's the context of this feature that I'm trying to develop. You need to have a core concept of what it is and how each workflow is supposed to work in the app, right? Because that's what development really is we have a target of what we want to make and how we want it to behave in each case, including the edge cases, and we make sure that it hits the acceptance criteria. We can't just tell it something and hope it works in every case. That's what product is supposed to do. They mostly describe it and then they leave some stuff out and they're like, it'll work. And then the developer is left with, well, actually, it doesn't work in this kind of case. What did you want it to do, right? And you would tell product manager to figure something out. Or depending on how much autonomy you have, you might do it yourself. Like with me, usually I'll have an idea of how I want it to work in the edge cases. So that's kind of something to think about is you need the concept of how it's supposed to work, and you need to be able to describe that to it too, so it can make a task that predicts what it should say, right? Like it can make an idea of like what you mostly want and it'll create that and you can go from there, right? So it has really sped up development. I'm always reviewing the entire pull request. And then after I've reviewed the entire pull request, then I'm testing the code, right? Then I'm seeing if it works the way that I want it to work. And then you could either tell it, follow up, make these changes, or you can manually update things. Usually for me, it's both. So I'll say about 10% of the time, it can give me something that is exactly like, it's the minimum acceptance criteria that I want, right? When I'm asking it to make something, it's what I want it to make 10% of the time, because the other 9 times there is something missing or something busted or it didn't understand something or it was the wrong implementation, right? That's the thing that I want to really drive home is that you can leave a like and you can subscribe and hit the bell for more content like this. But aside from driving that home, I also want to make sure that people understand like you can't just tell it, write me a feature that accepts pizza orders. Like make me a feature that accepts pizza orders, it needs to be a form, and that's it, right? There are so many more steps there. Queues, serialization, making sure that the pizza doesn't disappear as soon as like the app dies, and then where does it go? How do you accept the payment? There's so much that goes into it that you actually need to describe. And usually for me, I'm not just describing it from a product standpoint. I also have to tell it implementation details, otherwise it's going to miss something. And that's because I have context of the whole app in my head too. It's not just, oh, it has all the context of my repo and it's good. It's actually not good. So I would say that's a mixture of like my review. It's like a review of Codex and it's also like a recommendation of how to use it. These things have to be co-pilots still. They're not something that replaces you or can do it on its own. You need to understand the changes that I've made to be able to use something like this. With that said, it's completely accelerated my development. It's much, much faster than using Copilot or talking to ChatGPT. It's great to just make tasks. And I like to start 10 of the tasks and then I check in on them one by one and I start each time usually I have to edit a lot. But again, it really accelerates my development, but it does make a big portion of it kind of review. It's not only writing code now. But it's fun. I'd recommend it. Try it out and let me know how it's working for you and your thoughts about it. But yeah, see you in the next one. Take it easy. And don't freak out about the market.